Congratulations on your big day, Donald. The message on my phone arrived accompanied by a photo that made my stomach churn. I was standing in the middle of my newly opened office, surrounded by 25 elegantly arranged tables with flower centerpieces that I had chosen myself. Each place setting had a personalized card. Every chair was empty. In the photo my Aunt Patricia had just sent, I saw my entire family gathered in my brother Derek's rented apartment in Manhattan. My father was raising a glass of champagne next to Derek, who was smiling with those perfectly white teeth our parents had paid to have straightened. My mother was in the background, beaming, holding a homemade sign that read, "Congratulations on the new company, Derek. My name is Donald, I'm 32 years old, and I just found out that my entire family chose to celebrate my brother's lie instead of the reality of my achievement. 10 years. 10 years I worked 60 hours a week as a technology consultant to raise capital. 10 years living in a one-bedroom apartment to save every penny. 10 years listening to my mother say I was too obsessed with work, while Derek changed jobs every 6 months, always with a new excuse about bosses who didn't understand his vision. The catering I hired for 50 people was untouched on the tables. Small gourmet sandwiches, fruit cut into elegant shapes, that red wine my father always praised when he came to dinner with me, before he stopped coming altogether. I reviewed the invitations I sent out a month ago. Every family member had confirmed their attendance. I wouldn't miss this for anything, my mother had said. I'm so proud, my father had promised. Derek even offered to help with the decorations, saying he wanted to be part of this historic moment. Now I understand that he really did want to be part of it, just in his own way. My assistant, Jennifer, appeared at the office door with a worried expression. "Donald, a few more guests have arrived," she said quietly. 3 colleagues from my old company, my accountant, and Mrs. Martinez, the owner of the bakery where I've bought coffee every morning for 5 years. People who chose to be here. People who didn't share my DNA. I walked to the panoramic window on the 22nd floor, watching the city stretch out below. This office cost me every penny I had saved. Every weekend working while others were having fun. Every holiday I spent alone developing proposals instead of visiting family. My phone vibrated again. Another photo of Derek, now cutting a cake that read Derek's Tech Solutions Grand Opening. The company that existed only in his imagination and in the apartment our parents helped pay for. While my family celebrated a lie, I was here building something real. But what they didn't know was that this betrayal had awakened something in me. Something that had been dormant for a long time, masked by a desperate need for family approval. If you're enjoying this story of overcoming adversity and don't want to miss any details of how the truth always comes out, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I put my phone in my pocket and turned to the few guests who had actually come. It was time to find out who my true allies were. And then, it was time to show my family what happens when they underestimate the wrong person. What they didn't realize was that I had documented every penny Derek had borrowed from them over the years. And that information was about to come in very handy. 3 hours later, still in my empty office, I started getting calls. "Donald, honey, where are you?" My mother's voice sounded forced and cheerful. "Derek is making a toast and wants you to come celebrate with the family. He said you promised to come after your little meeting." Little meeting. 10 years of my life reduced to a little meeting. "Mom, today was the launch of my company," I replied, watching the untouched catering being packed up by the staff. "You confirmed your attendance a month ago." "Oh honey, you know how these dates get mixed up. Derek only told us about his company last night. He was so nervous, poor thing. You understand that we needed to support him at this time, right? He needs us more right now." Derek always needed more. When I got my first promotion at 23, Derek had an existential crisis, and our parents spent 2 weeks comforting him at a resort in Colorado. When I got my master's in business administration while working part-time, Derek decided he wanted to try theater, and they financed a whole year of private lessons and professional headshots. "Where exactly is Derek's company, Mom?" A silence. "Well, he's working from home for now. You know, it's more economical in the beginning." "And what is the product or service?" He's developing a revolutionary app. Something about connecting people through shared virtual experiences." The words came out hesitantly, clearly rehearsed. Derek was using the same vague pitch he used 3 years ago when he borrowed $20,000 for the innovative e-commerce business that never got off the ground. Or 2 years ago, when he needed $15,000 to invest in cryptocurrency before it was too late. Or last year, when $10,000 would temporarily solve his cash flow problems. Mom, Derek's Tech Solutions doesn't exist. Donald Taylor, how dare you speak that way about your brother? Derek is finally finding his way, and instead of supporting him, you're being petty and jealous. Petty and jealous. The phrase that defined any questioning of Derek 2 decades ago. I hung up the phone and opened my laptop. Within 15 minutes, I confirmed what I already knew: no business registration for Derek's Tech Solutions in New York. No business license. No website, no online presence beyond today's photos. But Derek had something I never had: the ability to make our parents believe any fantasy he invented. I remembered our college graduation. I graduated magna cum laude in software engineering, while Derek dropped out of his communications major in his junior year. At the celebratory dinner, my mom spent 40 minutes explaining to the guests how Derek was pursuing a more creative and entrepreneurial path, while I had chosen the traditional and safe route. Traditional and safe. As if waking up at 5 in the morning for 10 years to build something from scratch was safe. My phone vibrated with a message from Derek. "Dude, where are you? Everyone here is asking. Mom said you had a work meeting today, but it ended hours ago, right? Come celebrate with me." Party popper. The festive emoji was the last straw. I opened my personal files folder on my computer. A folder I had kept for 5 years, meticulously documenting every loan Derek had received from our parents. Every unfulfilled promissory note. Every missed deadline. Every excuse accepted without question. $57,400. That was the total amount Derek owed our parents since 2018. Money they took out of their retirement, their medical emergency savings, the fund that was supposed to be for a possible move to a smaller house when Dad retired. Money I offered to pay back 3 different times. Offers refused because Derek needs to learn responsibility, and we don't want you to feel obligated to clean up his mess. But paying for his mess was exactly what they did, month after month. I opened another file. Screenshots of Derek's social media over the past 2 years. Trips to Cancun financed by his parents as recovery from entrepreneurial stress. Expensive dinners posted every week while claiming to be saving to invest in the business. The Manhattan apartment that cost $3,200 a month, even though Derek never had a job that paid more than $2,000. The math was simple: Derek was living an upper-middle-class life at the expense of our parents' retirement. And today, when I finally launched something real, something tangible that I created with my own sweat, they chose to celebrate yet another of his fantasies. Jennifer appeared at the office door. "Donald, you have a call. A man named Michael Patterson says he's from the accounting firm Hartman and Associates." Hartman and Associates. The firm where Derek claimed to have landed a very lucrative consulting contract 6 months ago. The job that justified his new designer clothes and expensive dinners. "Put him through," I asked. "Mr. Taylor? This is Michael Patterson. Sorry to bother you, but I got your number through our corporate network. You're Derek Taylor's brother, correct?" "Yes." "Well, Derek listed us as a personal reference on some recent credit applications. We just wanted to confirm some information about his professional situation. He claimed to work with us as a senior consultant, but our records show no Derek Taylor on our payroll. We never have." The floor seemed to solidify beneath my feet. Derek wasn't just lying to his family. He was using lies to obtain credit, possibly fraudulent loans. May I ask what kind of applications? Auto financing and 2 commercial credit cards. Significant amounts based on declared income of $120,000 annually. I hung up the phone and leaned back in my chair. Derek wasn't just playing businessman. He was committing documented fraud. And my family was not only allowing it, but celebrating it. I picked up my phone and started typing a message to Derek. Then I stopped. I deleted everything. What Derek didn't know was that I had 15 years of experience in data analysis and systems auditing. What my parents didn't know was that I had learned to document everything meticulously after getting burned in business partnerships early in my career. And what none of them realized was that I had just decided it was time to use those skills for something other than building companies. It was time to take one down. While they were toasting in Derek's rented apartment, celebrating a non-existent company, I was here organizing the documentation that would reveal not only his lies, but the full extent of his fraud. Derek wanted to play businessman? Perfect. Because I was about to give him a masterclass on how real business works. And the first lesson would be about accountability. The next morning, my phone woke me up with a flood of notifications. 27 unread messages, 15 missed calls, and my email inbox overflowing. The first message was from my Aunt Patricia. Donald, your mother is inconsolable. Derek said you threatened him last night and that you're spreading lies about his company out of jealousy. This is not the man we raised. The man we raised. As if Derek and I had had the same upbringing. I opened Derek's Instagram. 3 new posts since yesterday, one photo of him in a new suit that cost more than my monthly rent, another at a 5-star restaurant with a caption celebrating the company's growth, and a 40-second video explaining his revolutionary vision for connecting people through shared digital experiences. The video already had 257 likes and 42 comments from relatives praising his innovation and entrepreneurial spirit. My mother had commented, "So proud of my visionary son." My father, "The future is in good hands with this generation." Aunt Susan, "We always knew Derek would do great things." No mention of my actual, registered, operational, revenue-generating company. Jennifer appeared at my office door at 8:15 a.m., holding 2 coffees and a worried expression. "Donald, there's a woman at the front desk wanting to see you. She says she's Karen Mitchell from Mitchell & Associates Financial Services." It sounds important. Karen Mitchell. The name was familiar, but I couldn't place her immediately. Send her in. Karen was a woman in her 50s with gray hair pulled back into a neat bun and a navy blue suit that screamed senior professional. She entered carrying a brown leather briefcase and an expression that mixed concern with determination. "Mr. Taylor, thank you for seeing me on such short notice." She sat down in the chair across from my desk and opened her briefcase. "I've been in financial advisory for 25 years, and yesterday I received a very disturbing call about your brother." My stomach clenched. Derek approached me 3 weeks ago claiming to be a founding partner of a growing technology company. He presented revenue projections, fake contracts with large corporations, and even fabricated balance sheets. It was all very convincing. She slid a stack of documents across the table. I immediately recognized Derek's handwriting on the contracts, but the company logos and signatures were clearly forged. Based on this information, I approved an $85,000 loan for business expansion. The money was transferred yesterday morning. $85,000. But yesterday afternoon, Karen continued, I received an anonymous call from someone who identified himself only as a concerned friend. This person informed me that Derek's Tech Solutions does not exist as a legal entity, has never generated revenue, and that Derek Taylor has a history of questionable financial schemes. The room seemed to spin slightly. Derek wasn't just playing businessman or lying to his family. He was committing documented bank fraud. I confirmed all the information within 2 hours. No business registration, no business license, no evidence of legitimate business activity. Mr. Taylor, your brother deliberately misled me and obtained a substantial amount of money through forged documents. What happens now? I am required by law to report this to the authorities. Bank fraud is a federal crime. But before I take that step, I wanted to talk to you. Your brother listed you as a character reference, and I need to understand if there was any complicity on your part. I shook my head vigorously. I knew nothing about this. Yesterday was the first time I heard about Derek's Tech Solutions. Karen studied my face for several seconds, then nodded. I believe you. Your reputation in the industry is impeccable, and your company has a clean record. After Karen left, I sat in silence for 20 minutes, processing the magnitude of what Derek had done. These were no longer family loans or little social lies. This was a federal crime. My phone rang. Mom. Donald, I need you to come here immediately. Derek is devastated by the horrible things you've been saying about him. Mom, I need to tell you something important about Derek. I don't want to hear another negative word about your brother. You've always been jealous of him, but this is going too far. The line went dead. Jennifer knocked on the door. Donald, there are 2 more people here who want to talk to you. A private investigator named Marcus Webb and a woman who says she's a lawyer. Marcus Webb had the bearing of a former police officer, broad shoulders, analytical gaze, firm handshake. The lawyer introduced herself as Christina Reyes, specializing in financial crimes. "Mr. Taylor," Marcus began, "I've been investigating your brother for 6 weeks at the request of 3 different creditors. Derek obtained commercial credit cards using false information about his income and employment." Christina opened her briefcase. "My client David Chun loaned Derek $22,000 based on documents claiming he was a senior consultant at Hartman & Associates. We discovered yesterday that Derek never worked there. How many cases like this are there?" I asked. Marcus and Christina exchanged glances. "To our knowledge," Marcus replied, "at least 7 cases involving a total of $160,000. The room fell silent. Derek had built a systematic fraud scheme, using elaborate lies to extract money from multiple sources. "There's more," Christina continued. "Derek is using personal information from family members in some of these applications. Your name appears as a reference on at least 3 documents, and someone forged your signature on 2 letters of recommendation." I felt the blood drain from my face. Derek wasn't just committing fraud. He was framing me in the process. "I need to see those letters." Christina slid 2 sheets of paper across the table. My supposed signature appeared on forged letterhead from my company, recommending Derek as a trustworthy and innovative business partner, with whom I had worked extensively. The forgery was good, but not perfect. Derek had practiced my signature, but he hadn't been able to completely replicate the pressure I use on the pen. "What do you need from me?" "Testimony," Marcus replied. "Evidence that these signatures are forged. Documentation that Derek never worked with your company. And cooperation with federal authorities," Christina added. "The FBI will likely take an interest in this case within 48 hours. After they left, I sat alone in my office, watching the city through the panoramic window. In 24 hours, Derek had gone from being a lying brother to a federal criminal who was dragging my reputation down with his. My phone vibrated with a message from Derek. "Man, I heard you've been talking shit about me to strangers. What the fuck is that about?" I called Mom crying. "Are you trying to ruin my life?" I called him back. Derek answered on the first ring. "Derek, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Stop whatever you're doing. Now." "What the hell are you talking about?" "Bank fraud is a federal crime. Using my name on false documents is also a federal crime. You have approximately 6 hours before the FBI knocks on your door." Silence on the other end of the line. "Derek." "Bro, It's complicated, but I can explain everything." "Explain $85,000 stolen from a financial advisor? Explain $160,000 in fraudulent loans? Explain forging my signature. How do you know all this?" "Because the victims are coming after me too, Derek. You listed me as an accomplice. I just needed a chance, bro. A real opportunity to show what I'm capable of." "Stealing." "It's not stealing if I was going to pay it all back once the company took off." The justification left him speechless. Derek genuinely believed that bank fraud was acceptable if his intentions were to eventually pay it back. "Derek, you need to turn yourself in to the authorities before they come after you." "I can't do that, bro. My life would be over." "Your life is already over. The question now is whether you're going to face the consequences with dignity or make it worse by trying to run away." "You're not going to help me?" "The question that would define our relationship forever." "I'm not going to lie for you, Derek. I'm not going to hide evidence, I'm not going to provide a false alibi, and I'm certainly not going to pay for a lawyer to defend crimes you committed using my name. You're my brother. And you made me an unwitting accomplice to federal crimes." I hung up the phone. 5 minutes later, my mother called, hysterical. "Donald Taylor, how dare you abandon your brother when he needs his family the most?" "Mom, Derek committed federal crimes. Multiple crimes. And he used my name to do it." "That's impossible. Derek would never do such a thing." "I have the documents on my desk. Forged letters of recommendation with my signature. Fake contracts using my company's name." "You're lying to hurt Derek." The accusation hit me like a physical punch. My own mother would rather believe I was fabricating evidence of federal crime than accept that Derek was guilty. Mom, I need you to understand the gravity of this situation. The only thing I understand is that my oldest son is destroying my youngest son's life out of pure petty jealousy. She hung up on me. That night, sitting alone in my living room, I made the decision that would change everything. I opened my laptop and began systematically organizing all the evidence I had collected on Derek over the years. Not to protect him, as I had always done. Not to minimize his actions, as my family expected. But to ensure that when the authorities investigated this case, they would have the full picture of who Derek really was. If my family wanted to choose between the truth and Derek, they could make that choice. But I would no longer be an accomplice to his lies. It was time for Derek to face the real consequences of his actions. And it was time for my family to discover the price of enabling a criminal. The game had completely changed. Derek had turned family betrayal into a federal crime. And now, the rules would be dictated by the justice system, not by the dysfunctional family dynamics that had enveloped us for decades. As I organized the documents that would turn Derek over to the authorities, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: the absolute clarity of doing the right thing, regardless of the personal cost. The next morning, I turned my office into a command center. 3 monitors connected to my main computer displayed spreadsheets, scanned documents, and detailed timelines. Jennifer had canceled all my meetings for the week, saying only that I was working on a critical project. The first call was to Michael Chun, a forensic investigator specializing in financial crimes whom I had met during a consulting project 2 years earlier. Michael had a reputation for dismantling fraud schemes with surgical precision. "Donald, based on the documents you sent me, your brother isn't just committing isolated fraud," Michael explained during our video call. "He's developed a system. Look, this pattern of escalation? He started small, tested the limits, then systematically expanded." Michael pointed to a timeline he had created in 24 hours. Derek started with small lies about income in 2017. 2018 was unpaid family loans. 2019, credit cards with false information. 2020, commercial loans using fictitious companies. And this year? I asked. This year he went pro. Forged documents, fake references, even a fabricated website for Derek's Tech Solutions. He spent $5,000 creating a convincing business front. $5,000 Derek didn't have. Money that probably came from the last emergency loan our parents gave him 3 months ago. "Michael, I need to understand, if I cooperate fully with the authorities, what are the chances Derek will face real consequences?" "With the documentation you already have? 95%. Bank fraud, document forgery, identity theft. He's looking at 5 to 7 years in federal prison." The reality of the words hit me like a physical weight. My brother, despite everything, facing federal prison. But then I remembered the recommendation letters forged with my signature. The damage to my professional reputation. The victims like Karen Mitchell, who had lost $85,000 for trusting Derek's lies. "I need 48 hours to get everything organized," I told Michael. For the next 2 days, I worked 16 hours a day cataloging evidence. Every unpaid loan since 2017. Every documented lie about non-existent jobs. Every forged document I could find. Jennifer brought me coffee regularly, watching my silent transformation. "Donald, are you okay? I haven't seen you like this since you started the company." "I'm finding out who my family really is," I replied, without taking my eyes off the spreadsheets. On Tuesday night, Derek called me, his voice drunk with confidence. "Man, you won't believe it. I got another investor. 50,000 this time." The guy was impressed with the company's projections. $50,000. Another victim. "Derek, where did you find this investor?" "Networking, bro. LinkedIn, entrepreneurship events. You should try it too, instead of being stuck in that fancy office." Fancy office. 10 years of honest work reduced to a dismissive remark. "How are things going with Mom and Dad?" I asked. "Oh, they're kind of stressed about you. Mom thinks you're having some kind of breakdown. She said you've been saying weird things about me to random people." Random people. The victims of fraud Derek had created. "Derek, have you thought about what would happen if your lies were discovered?" He laughed. "What lies, bro? I'm building an empire here. Maybe when you get over your jealousy, you can work for me. Work for him. The audacity was impressive. After hanging up, I sat in silence for 20 minutes. My phone vibrated constantly with messages from family members. Aunt Patricia, Donald, your mom is worried about you. Stop harassing Derek. Cousin Steve, man, I hear you've been badmouthing Derek. Is this a family thing? A family thing. As if protecting a criminal was family loyalty. On Wednesday morning, I made my final decision. I called Special Agent Robert Martinez of the FBI, who had contacted me through Christina Reyes. Agent Martinez, this is Donald Taylor. I'm ready to cooperate fully. Excellent. I need you to come to our office this afternoon. Bring all the documentation you've collected. If you're following this journey of family discovery and want to see how the truth always finds its way to the light, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the moment when everything is resolved. At 3 in the afternoon, I sat in a sterile interrogation room in the federal building, a 456-page folder of evidence on the table in front of me. Agent Martinez was accompanied by Agent Sarah Williams, a specialist in financial crimes. Mr. Taylor, before we begin, I want you to understand, once we start this process, there is no turning back. Your brother will be formally investigated, and if the evidence is confirmed, he will be indicted. I understand. I also want you to know that your full cooperation is the only reason you are not being investigated as a possible accomplice. The forged documents bearing your signature could implicate you. I understand that too. Agent Williams turned on a tape recorder. So, Mr. Taylor, tell us everything you know about Derek Taylor's fraudulent activities. For 3 hours and 47 minutes, I systematically reported every detail I had documented. Every lie, every fraudulent loan, every victim I had identified. The agents took meticulous notes, occasionally asking for clarification. Mr. Taylor, Agent Martinez said when I finished, this is one of the most complete documentation we've ever seen in a family fraud case. Why did you decide to turn in your own brother? The question that would define not only this moment, but my entire relationship with my family forever. Because $57,000 of my parents' retirement disappeared to finance his lies. Because Karen Mitchell lost $85,000 by trusting his forgeries. Because innocent people are being harmed while my family celebrates their fantasies. Agent Williams nodded. When do you plan to tell your family about this investigation? I don't plan to tell them. They'll find out through the normal legal process. As I left the federal building, my phone displayed 23 unread messages from my family. Derek had posted another inspirational video about entrepreneurship, with my mother commenting, "So proud of my visionary." Visionary. The word made me laugh for the first time in days. Derek wasn't a visionary. He was a federal criminal who had turned lies into art and manipulation into a family strategy. But while my family continued to finance and celebrate his fantasies, I had just handed the federal authorities everything they needed to dismantle his little empire of lies. In 72 hours, Derek would receive a visit that would change his life completely. And this time, neither our parents nor his manipulative skills could save him. The game had changed for good. Derek had chosen to be a criminal. Now he would face the consequences of one. And me? For the first time in decades, I was completely at peace with the decision I had made regarding my family. It was not betrayal to protect innocent people from a financial predator. Even when that predator was my own brother. On Friday at 6:45 a.m., Derek called me. His voice trembled in a way I had never heard before. "Donald, man, you need to help me. There are some guys from the FBI at my door. They have a search and seizure warrant. What the hell is going on?" Silence on my end. "Donald? Are you there? They're asking me to open the door. They say if I don't, they'll break it down." "Derek, you should open the door and cooperate fully." "Cooperate with what? I haven't done anything wrong. Do you know anything about this?" The question that would define our relationship forever. I could lie, feign ignorance, try to protect him one last time. Or I could finally tell the truth. "I know everything, Derek. All the fraudulent loans, all the forged documents, all the victims you created. You turned me in? You turned yourself in when you forged my signature on federal crime documents." The sound of a door being broken down echoed through the phone. Authoritative voices shouting instructions. Derek gasping. The phone falling to the floor. Agent Martinez called me 2 hours later. Derek Taylor is in federal custody. We found additional evidence in his apartment that confirms everything you told us. We also discovered 3 new schemes we didn't know about. 3 new schemes. Derek had been even more criminally active than I knew. Agent Martinez, what happens now with my family? They don't know anything about the investigation. That's up to you, Mr. Taylor. But they'll find out through the press in about 4 hours. 4 hours before the local news reported Derek's arrest for multiple federal crimes. I called my mother. Donald, thank God you called. Derek is in jail for some terrible mess. You need to come here now and help us hire a lawyer. Mom, Derek wasn't arrested for a mess. He was arrested for bank fraud, document forgery, and identity theft. That's impossible. Someone set him up. Mom, I turned Derek over to federal authorities. Complete silence. For 20 seconds, just heavy breathing. You did what? I cooperated fully with a federal investigation into Derek's crimes. I provided documentation of 15 years of lies, unpaid loans, and fraudulent activities. You betrayed your own family. I protected innocent victims from a financial predator. Derek is your brother. Derek forged my signature on federal documents, made me an unwitting accomplice to crimes, and stole over $200,000 from innocent people. The number made her hesitate. 200,000? $236,400, to be exact, including $57,000 from your retirement that was never returned. My mother began to cry. Not tears of sadness, but of pure anger. You destroyed our family. Derek destroyed our family. I just documented it. She hung up the phone. 3 hours later, my phone exploded with calls. Agent Williams had warned me that the press would pick up the story quickly. Derek Taylor, young entrepreneur, arrested for fraud scheme that affected multiple victims. What I didn't expect was a call from Jennifer, the woman Derek claimed to have secured a $50,000 investment from. Mr. Taylor, this is Jennifer Park from Park & Associates Investment Group. I read about your brother in the news. I need to speak with you immediately. Half an hour later, Jennifer was in my office with Agent Martinez and a stack of documents that made my blood run cold. Derek didn't get $50,000 from me, Jennifer explained. He forged investment contracts with our company and used those fake documents to get a $200,000 loan from First National Bank. $200,000. Derek had escalated to a federal crime of a completely different magnitude. But there's more, Agent Martinez continued. Derek was planning to use that money to flee the country. We found tickets to the Cayman Islands in his name and documents indicating he intended to set up offshore bank accounts. My brother wasn't just a criminal. He was a criminal who planned to flee American justice using stolen money. Agent Martinez, did Derek say anything during the interrogation? Initially, he claimed to be a victim of identity theft. He said someone was using his name to commit crimes. When we showed him the evidence you provided, he changed his story to say that you were behind it all, orchestrating crimes to frame him. Derek's audacity was impressive even in federal custody. But then, Jennifer continued, we showed him the security footage from the bank where he personally applied for the $200,000 loan. And the phone records showing that he called multiple victims using the same script. How did he react? He started crying, Agent Martinez replied. He said it all started small and grew. That he never meant to hurt anyone. That he was going to pay it all back once the real company took off. The same childish excuse Derek had been using since he was a teenager. I was going to fix everything later. My phone vibrated with a message from my Aunt Patricia. Donald, your mother is in the hospital. She had a nervous breakdown when she saw Derek being taken away by the feds on the news. You should be here. I drove to the hospital in silence, processing the magnitude of what had happened. My family was shattered. Derek was facing 10 to 15 years in federal prison. My mother was hospitalized for a nervous breakdown. And me? I was completely at peace with every decision I had made. At the hospital, I found my father sitting alone in the waiting room, looking like he had aged a decade in a day. How is she? Sedated. The doctors said the shock was severe. She keeps repeating that Derek is innocent, that someone set him up. Dad, you saw the evidence. I did. All of it. The forged documents, the fake contracts, the bank records. He looked me straight in the eye. You did the right thing, Donald. The words I had waited 42 years to hear. I failed as a father, he continued. I allowed Derek to believe that lying had no consequences, that other people would always be there to clean up his messes. Dad, you tried to help. Parents do that. Helping is teaching responsibility. We taught him that irresponsibility would always be rewarded with more help. The doctor appeared with news about my mother. She was stable but would need psychiatric follow-up. The reality about Derek had completely shattered her perception of family reality. On the way out of the hospital, Dad stopped me in the parking lot. Derek is going to need a criminal lawyer who specializes in federal crimes. That's going to cost between $50,000 and $100,000. I waited, knowing a request was coming. I don't have that kind of money. Derek has already used up our savings. And you want me to finance his defense? No, he replied, surprising me. I want you to know that I'm not going to ask you to do that. Derek made his choices. Now he needs to face the consequences without dragging you down with him. The father who had always protected Derek had finally accepted the reality of who his youngest son really was. As I drove home, my phone rang. Unknown number. Donald? It's Derek. They let me make a call. How did you get my number? I thought you were incommunicado. I memorized it. Listen, man, I need you to withdraw your cooperation with the feds. Tell them you fabricated the evidence out of jealousy. That I never committed any crime. One last attempt at manipulation. Even from federal prison, Derek still believed he could convince me to sacrifice my integrity to save him. Derek, you were caught red-handed trying to pull off a $200,000 scam. There's video evidence. How exactly could I have fabricated that? I don't know, man. You're smart, you can figure something out. Say I'm mentally ill, that I need treatment, not prison. Derek, you systematically planned to steal almost $500,000 and flee the country. That's not mental illness. It's a conscious choice to be a criminal. You've always been jealous of me. You've always wanted to destroy me. Derek, I've spent 40 years trying to protect you from the consequences of your actions. No more. If you don't withdraw your cooperation, I'll tell everyone that you always knew about my business. That you were my silent partner. The final threat. Derek threatening to falsely incriminate me if I didn't lie to protect him. Derek, federal agents have recorded this call. You have just committed another federal crime, obstruction of justice and witness tampering. Silence. Then the sound of Derek being dragged away by guards, screaming that I had destroyed our family. The call ended. Agent Martinez called me 10 minutes later. Mr. Taylor, we have confirmed that Derek attempted to coerce you into withdrawing your testimony. That adds 2 years to his potential sentence. Even in federal custody, Derek was still committing crimes. That night, sitting alone in my office, I watched the city lights through the panoramic window. In 1 week, my family had been torn apart, my brother arrested for federal crimes, and my mother hospitalized for a nervous breakdown. And for the first time in decades, I felt complete peace with a family decision I had made. Derek chose to be a criminal. Now he would face the consequences of one. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more innocent people being harmed while my family celebrated their fantasies. The game was definitively over. And justice had finally prevailed over the toxic family dynamic that had enveloped us our entire lives. But what none of us could have imagined was that the most shocking revelations about Derek were yet to come. The FBI had discovered something that would turn this local case into a national scandal. 6 months after Derek's arrest, I received an unexpected call from Agent Martinez. Donald, Derek has been sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole for the first 5 years. 8 years. The reality of the number hit me in a strange way. I felt neither satisfaction nor sadness. Just a sense of closure. What about the victims? We were able to recover 70% of the stolen money. Karen Mitchell will get back $60,000 of the $85,000 she lost. It's not everything, but it's substantial. After the conviction, my family split up for good. My mother never spoke to me again, convinced that I had destroyed Derek out of jealousy. Aunt Patricia and other relatives cut me off completely. But Dad? Dad started visiting me every Friday. "You saved our retirement," he said during one of those visits, holding a cup of coffee in my office. If Derek had continued, we would have lost the house too. The company grew exponentially. Without the constant family drama, I was able to focus completely on business. I hired 15 employees, opened a branch in Chicago, and this month I will sign a $2 million contract with a multinational corporation. Jennifer, my assistant, became a partner. "You know, Donald, I've never seen you as serene as you are now." It was true. For the first time in decades, I didn't carry the burden of protecting Derek from the consequences of his actions. Last week, I found an envelope on my desk. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Donald, I'm Karen Mitchell. I wanted to thank you personally. Not just for getting my money back, but for having the courage to do the right thing even when it cost you your family. People like you restore my faith in humanity." I put the letter in a drawer alongside 17 others from Derek's victims who had been compensated. 2 weeks ago, Dad told me that Derek had called from prison asking me to visit him. He said he has something important to tell you. And do you think I should go? Dad thought about it for a long time. "I think Derek needs to learn to live with the consequences of his choices, without you cleaning up his messes." The lesson I learned wasn't about revenge or justice. It was about the difference between true family loyalty and complicity in destructive behavior. Protecting Derek from all consequences for 40 years didn't help him. It only allowed him to become a more sophisticated criminal. By turning him in to the authorities, I didn't destroy my family. I revealed that it was already destroyed by the toxic dynamic we had sustained for decades. Today, looking out the window of my office on the 22nd floor, I see a city full of possibilities. My business is thriving, I have a chosen family of loyal employees, and I sleep with a clear conscience. Derek? Derek is learning that actions have real consequences. If this story about family, truth, and the courage to do the right thing has touched you, subscribe to the channel. We have many other stories of people who chose truth over family convenience. The last I heard from Derek, he was working in the prison library, teaching other inmates to read. Perhaps, finally, he is learning the real value of honest work.